everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of the Best You, a coaching podcast interview series. And I am absolutely thrilled to have my friend Jennifer Vinges on, and I say that name a little bit more pronounced because I just learned how to pronounce it just prior to us recording today, and I'm very sensitive about getting people's names correctly because people get my name incorrect, my last name in particular. But yeah, Jen and I have been on a very similar journey for the past little while now, and I've struck up a very good friendship in terms of our ongoing learnings from the mastermind community. And we've basically connected through our collective passion for helping people. So what I'm going to do here originally is I'm going to pass this over to Jen to tell us just a little bit about herself, and then we'll get on with the conversation. Jen, over to
Oh,
you.
thank you so much for having me. I am so excited. Yes, we share a passion for helping people, and my passion stems from my childhood being that 16-year-old girl suffering with asthma, self-hating, that disconnect of my mind and body. And what I learned, I fell into strength training years ago and I started to physically feel better, but I still had this disconnect with my mind. And even though I was getting stronger physically, I still hated myself. And I'm pretty sure a lot of listeners can relate to that. I know a lot of my listeners can too. And it was this struggle of like wanting to feel better, but not having the tools to feel better. And it wasn't until I realized I could actually train my mind. It was the biggest mind-blowing thing. It's like, oh no, I know there's tools that'll help me get stronger with my mind. And once that connection happened for me, I probably was in my 20s. And then I fell into yoga, and that really landed the mind-body connection. And that set me on this spiral of learning all things to feel better. Because if I'm being honest, I really didn't like myself as a kid. I really struggled with how I looked. I struggled with how I felt. Had a lot of bad behaviors. I had a bad temper as a kid. And through this journey, I actually went from self-hating to falling in love with myself. And that wasn't something that happened overnight. That was something that took many years and many layers of learning and changing my habits. And it was until I always say there's three bodies. I finally figured out there's three bodies that I needed to teach myself how to take care of: the physical body, which I knew at 16 how to do, and then the mental body, which I learned in my 20s and 30s. And it wasn't until I was in my 40s that there was this energetic spiritual body. And that was the final key. It was the final piece to the puzzle of really feeling good. And I want that for other people because I don't want people to struggle and have that self-hate that I did for so many years. I'm in my late 40s, and it took until I was in my 40s to really start to connect with my mind, my body, and my energetic body. And so what I do is I help men and women break those cycles of doing the right thing, falling off, and those self-sabotaging cycles. And I help them just by having awareness, and then creating habits, one habit at a time, to help get their life back in order. And I'm almost saying I'm like a navigator of this journey called life. And I really just help people see that there is possibility that, like me, I was suffering and I thought life was happening to me, and the world was just mean and I wasn't deserving and I was unworthy, to I am the creator of my life. And that's what I help my clients see. Like, they go from feeling unworthy and undeserving of feeling good and living good to this beautiful moment. It's like this aha moment where they're like, oh wait, I have control. There are things, and it's not this series of massive things that we do all day. It's just tiny tweaks. And that's what I help people do, and I love doing it, and I'm passionate about it because I wake up every day in love with my life, and that wasn't always the case. And I know it's possible because I'm living it. I see it in my clients, and I want to share that with people. We are meant to live our best lives, and we're only on this beautiful planet one time. So why not have a good time while we're doing it, right?
Incredible, absolutely incredible. I was going to actually work on moving towards where your passion came from. You did a fantastic job there of explaining exactly where you came from, where it came from. One of the things that you said was, you're training your physical body, and then you realize that you could also train your mind, your subconscious, if you like. Was there a specific book you read, a person you met, that, like, what was the catalyst for understanding that you could unlock the work there?
So it's actually interesting. I worked in insurance for many years, and my boss at the time wanted to try a hot yoga class. So he asked me to go. And it was this very strange feeling. I was in the yoga. If you've ever taken yoga, you're in these poses and you're confronted with whatever stories in your head, right? You're supposed to sit there, and then you add heat on top of it. So now I'm sweating and I'm sitting with my life. And I remember walking out of that room a hot, sweaty mess, and had fallen in love with the practice. And that day I decided that was the start of my teacher training. And I went through many years of different levels of training. And once I've realized that, I sat with my thoughts and I confronted them, because I was a runner, right? So I would just run away from my problems. I
Yeah.
don't know if you've ever done that, but you get on a run and it's like, all right, I don't have any more problems, but you never actually address your problems. You just ran them off.
Yeah.
And yoga makes you sit. I was sitting with my stuff and it was really uncomfortable. And that opened up the door to, oh, wow, there's something going on inside my head, because I didn't even realize it. And I think a lot of people, they don't even realize that their thoughts are consuming them. I didn't realize that my mind was actually the one keeping me stuck. And so that yoga practice opened up this doorway to, oh, wow, there's this thing in my head that is actually controlling how I felt. And from yoga, I went on to mental conditioning coach training. And I went down this whole, like, how do I actually train this thing? Because I equated training to the physical body. Like, I knew there was things to get stronger physical. And now this opened up a whole door, like, oh, wow, there's actually things you can do to work your mind. I never knew that in school. I don't know about you. Mindfulness wasn't a thing when I was in school. It's a thing now, but it wasn't when I was in school. So that was really my aha moment that really, really started anchoring my life to one, like realizing that I am actually in control of everything. And I stopped putting blame on everybody else in my life for what was happening in my life. And I took ownership. And in taking ownership, I took power. And that was really powerful. Like, nobody has control over my life but me. And that's huge. I think, like, because we all want to blame somebody else, right? It's so much easier to say, well, I feel this way because Gary, you said something and now I'm upset. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I'm in control of what happens in my world. And knowing that has empowered me in many ways of my life. So I actually feel really blessed to have been on this journey. And it's a continuous journey. But I'm so passionate about it because I see myself in a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I know there's hope, but just like that person starting out in the beginning, it doesn't feel like there's hope, right? You don't feel like there's anything you can do because you're so caught up in your thoughts, you don't even realize what you're thinking. And that's what I help people do. I help them, like, kind of step back from their life and just look at it from, like, an outside view, like, oh, you're saying these things, right? You ever hear that person, it's like their life is unraveling, like everything goes wrong, and they're like, Gary, you know what just happened to me? I got a flat tire, the blah, blah, and they're rattling off like 10, 12, 13 different things. And now I can say, well, you just created all those things.
Yeah.
Like, I can give, for instance, we were just away and our Airbnb, we got locked out and we had no place to stay. And I could go down a rabbit hole of all the negative things, or I could say, you know what? All right, that was an incident that gave us a redirection to a new opportunity for what was next for us.
Yeah.
So it's taking that moment of stepping back and looking at your life and where you are.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. I love the analogy of the running. I'm a runner, and when I run, I don't I genuinely don't classify it as running away from something. It's almost the opposite for me. It's one of those few opportunities that I get, just me, and sometimes with my love as well. And and it's that opportunity to kind of declutter certain things, and I just get clarity from running, especially on some of the longer runs. But I do love the analogy of, both the physical running part, but then the emotional or beneficial parts of running, of just being able to say, I'm just going to leave that there and run in the opposite direction, and get to somewhere that's not here. And I kind of smiled a wee bit as well when you were talking about mindfulness being taught in school and such. When I was in school, in high school specifically, I kept saying to people at the time, school is not part of my plan for right now. So I wasn't the best student. I wasn't destructive or disruptive or anything. I just kind of said, look, please don't ask me to do anything. Then I won't let you down, and then our relationship will be preserved in some way. But I don't have any plans for any education. So it's kind of ironic that I'm now in the self-education industry trying to educate people, and I've been doing education for a couple of decades now. That it just wasn't the right type and style of education for me at that particular time. So you talked about your journey. I'm interested, like you kind of flirted with the answer possibly earlier, but what would you say would be the biggest thing, the biggest surprising thing that you've learned about yourself through a journey?
A deep question. I think one of the things that I've learned about myself, and I've learned to love and appreciate, that it doesn't matter what's going on in my life. I keep showing up. I just know to just keep showing up, just keep doing what I'm doing. And I always get to the other side. And I think I even put that in my workouts. Like, I love working out. It's my time to get physically and mentally strong. And I always design my workouts so I know exactly what I'm doing. And there's always one or two exercises that are so uncomfortable. Like, I purposely put them in there, and I purposely sit with the discomfort because I know it's temporary. So I think for me, the biggest thing is the discomfort is temporary. Just keep showing up. And that's been one of the things that has helped me through everything. No matter what is going on in my life, I know to just keep showing up. Just keep showing up for myself. And that's been my biggest strength and the biggest anchor that's helped me get through a lot of things in my life.
Fabulous. Is that something you learned through a specific experience, or something that you had a chance to reflect on and say, that has been my anchor?
I think for me, it's like, I've been disappointed so many times when people don't show up or don't keep their promise. I don't know if that's happened to you in life, and it's not like people do it on purpose. Some people might, but I can't be the one that does that.
Yeah.
And so I've made that promise to myself. If I committed to something, I will see it through. And it's strange because, like, I started a program years ago called 75 Hard, and it was this intense exercise program. And I was okay at the end of the 75 Hard. But what I learned is there was a whole year program. And so in my mind, I'm like, well, you can't stop at 75 Hard because you're not finishing it. You have to do the whole year. So not knowing what the whole program was, I've trained myself to finish everything that I started, which is an interesting journey too. I started writing a book 3-4 years ago, and I just started writing 5 minutes a day, and I never thought about anything else, but my mindset is just keep showing up. So every day I kept showing up, and then I had this book and I was like, well, it's not finished. So I had somebody help me with it for a year, and I'm like, all right, well, it's still not finished. And this year I'm working now with an editor because I have to see it through. And when I start things, I don't look at it that way. I just know I have to keep showing up. So I think for me, it's easier in life, right? I don't look at the huge picture. I just look at, okay, what's today? Just keep showing up today. Just do your round of exercise. Just do those 10 reps that you said you're going to do. Just stay there for 5 minutes. And for me, that's really helped me get through the hard stuff. It's just like breaking it down. And I think that's why I'm such a goal-oriented person, and I teach goals. Like, I break them down to such small pieces that it's manageable. And that's how I that's how I manage my life pretty much.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I love that. I really do. It gives you an opportunity to be able to, kind of advertise yourself. This is what you can expect from me, and when you are working with me, this is what I'll expect from you, and we can hold each other to account. We were talking about accountability just before we
Yes.
started recording today.
You might
So
be, you might take that back.
I might regret that at some point in the future. I'm fairly certain I will not regret that. Absolutely not. What would you say is the best advice you've ever been given?
The best, I think the best advice I've ever been given is the power of words. And I study a lot of Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, and the best advice that I can give anyone is to be super intentional with your words and be really mindful of how you're speaking to yourself and how you're speaking to others, because how you're speaking is creating your reality. And I think I know I did, I took how I was speaking for granted, especially those self-sabotaging years. And I know, like, growing up and even people around me saying things like, I can, I'm lazy or I'm technically challenged, you're now identifying yourself as being those things, whether you intentionally mean to do it or not. Our words create vibrational energy, and that goes out into the universe, and that is what we attract. So I am super mindful. So my best advice would be really mindful of how you're speaking, really be intentional with your words and intentional with your language and your thoughts, because that's like your superpower. So if you can hone in on those and start to change how you're speaking, your entire life is going to change.
Yeah, it's incredible you say that. But one of the first, not the first, but one of the first things that I would do with any new coaching client is talk about that very thing about your self-talk. And the amount of times, not immediately, but over time, it becomes a genuine aha moment for anyone, to be able to say, would you say to another human being what you say inside your own mind, inside your own head? And we can have a little bit of fun with it in the beginning, but the point is, the answer is most likely not, because the stuff we say to ourselves, you wouldn't say it to your worst enemy half the time, even if you're
No.
really trying to bring someone down. And it does take a bit of time for people to start to listen to themselves and be a bit more intentional, as you say, about the words that you're using, both with yourself and with other people, because that's where it's the foundation. That's where it all
Mhm.
starts and emanates from. That's absolutely sage advice. And before I wrap this up for today, I'm interested that you mentioned the person whose work, forgive me, I didn't quite catch the name, but I'm interested in what you're reading right now. What's the main book that's on your nightstand that's consuming your time for right now?
Well, if I were to say any of the books, it's all of who I just mentioned, Dr. Joe Dispenza's books. He is an amazing, amazing neuroscientist. He does the placebo effect, breaking the habits of being yourself. Right now, I'm currently reading a book called Six Pillars of Confidence. Forgive me, I don't remember the author. It's a new author for myself. I think it's Nathaniel something. But I'm always constantly reading books that are either going to help me with mindset or just something around mindset, nutrition, all the things that I teach, because I love learning the same thing in a different way so I can help a client, since we all learn in different ways.
Yeah.
But definitely everything by Dr. Joe Dispenza would be my first recommendation, because he's going to he teaches the science in a very easy, understandable way, the impact of our language through science, like the impact of our language on creating disease in our body, and how our language can also create healing in our body. So those are definitely powerful books, any of his books.
I'm definitely going to look him up. I recall now you and I chatting about him at some point when we chatted before, and I did take a note. I literally have a note on my desk to research him. So that's sage advice. Where can people find you, Jen?
Well, You can find me on my website, jennifervinges.com. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. It's either Jennifer Vinges or Oxijen. It's behind me. Oh, you can't see because we're on audio, but it's Oxijen.
Perfect. I'll put that in the blurb for this pod. Jen, thank you very much for being the inaugural person on the Best You interview series. I've thoroughly enjoyed the chat today. I'm fairly certain this will not be the last time that I have you on the podcast. If you're willing to come back again, I really, really thoroughly enjoyed today, and I hope you did too.
Oh, me too. I love our conversations. Thank you so much for having me.